quite a few police officers for whatever happened there. Crazy news today. I guess this one first relates to that Ethiopian crash with the airline around the world, and people are worried about whether or not there's anything wrong with the Boeing airplanes. It says this one here in Canada. Canada grounds Boeing 737 MAX 8, bans jet from airspace following fatal crashes. Garneau says he's acting on new information about the aircraft involved in deadly Ethiopian Airlines crash. As to what this means, it says, quote, "This safety notice restricts commercial passenger flights from any air operator, both domestic and foreign, of the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and 9 aircraft from arriving, departing, or overflying Canadian airspace," Transport Minister Marc Garneau told reporters earlier today. Canada had been one of the last holdouts on temporarily banning the MAX 8s in the wake of the recent Ethiopian airline crashes that killed all 157 people on board, including 18 Canadians. The UK, the European Union, Australia, and many other countries had already banned the jet from their airspace in response to the growing safety concerns. So I guess with that information, you're wondering like, hey, why didn't we follow suit like just as quick as everyone else? It says here, Garneau said the decision to issue the safety notice was made after his department received new data suggesting a similarity between the Ethiopian Airlines crash and another deadly crash near Indonesia in October. This is kind of an interesting quote, which I'll bring back a little later. It says, he said much of the new information is new and unproven, but there are, and I hasten to say, not conclusive, but there are similarities that sort of exceed a certain threshold in our minds with respect to the possible cause of what happened in Ethiopia, he said. My department officials continue to monitor the situation, and I will not hesitate to take swift action should we discover any additional safety issues. So from what I gather, even though there was huge news about that, people died, he didn't want to rush to conclusions, and whatever this new information was, now he decided, okay, now it's time to take action to ban them. And it's kind of interesting to see the public response of this. Like this one guy here says, quote, Garneau says he's acting on new information. He goes, LOL, yeah, right. We saw the civilized world grounding these aircraft and Garneau was the only one holding out. Now he sees everyone else is doing the right thing. He joins the crowd. Way to be a leader there, buddy. And for the most part, that seems like what most of the comments were. Like, why not act really swiftly? Like in that case, like why did we take so long to do this? Like, I guess in generally speaking, it's good not to overreact, but then it's just so ironic in many ways, where like with the drones, if you guys remember, he created all those interim regulations because he wanted to swiftly, I guess you could say, put something in place before a drone crashes to an airplane or whatever, kills people and so forth. So in that sense, there was no real incident, so to speak, like there's no deaths, there's no real facts, yet he quickly says, I must push this out. But then in this case, you had real people that got killed. So many places around the world quickly said, okay, let's ground this thing until we figure out what's wrong. Yet he still sat there giving kind of like the benefit of the doubt at first. So it makes me wonder, what is the difference in this case to make someone say, like for a tiny thing like a drone with no real incidents in that level, to say, I need to ban this now, whereas this, you sit there saying, let's just see how it works out. Like there is an extremely unfortunate situation, but when it comes to things like for them, Transport Canada or whatever you want to say, protecting things that are in the air, I just don't see the logical consistency in that way. I mean, I joke about this, but it's semi-serious. Does it just come down to whether or not the person has a nightmare with one particular scenario? I guess this is semi-good news for the drones in Canada. For all you guys that know, for doing the tests and flying drones, and to fly advanced operations, you need drones that are qualified on the Transport Canada list. And initially, DJI drones were basically barred, but apparently from an update, you can now basically fly DJI drones under the advanced operations. On their newsroom, it says here, Transport Canada announced its new regulatory framework for certain types of advanced civilian drone operations in January, requiring the use of drones whose manufacturer has declared compliance with reliability and operational characteristics under the Safety Assurance Framework. DJI's compliant drones are the M600 series, M200 series, M200 V2 series, Inspire 2, Mavic 2 series, Mavic Pro, Mavic Air, Phantom 4 series, and Spark. So a lot of them are included. I guess for things like the Phantom 3s and stuff, or anything below the 4 wouldn't qualify anymore. So I guess for people who fly stuff like that and you want to use it for advanced purposes, you probably have to upgrade, huh? Although I don't see the drones officially listed on the site yet, it does make me wonder because there are categories there. For example, it says, can you fly in controlled airspace, near people, or over people? And so many of these drones here, like, you can't fly over people apparently. So it makes me wonder for these DJI drones whether or not you could. Because honestly, for things like a Spark, I think it should be okay for the most part with precautions and all that. So still a lot of time, of course, for things to change, so let's see how it goes. But it just makes me think again, like in terms of hysteria and caution with things in the air. There's airplanes that are killing people like every single day, so to speak. Whereas with stuff like this, even though for the most part I haven't heard of anything like a death or anything like that, it just makes you wonder why this stuff is taken so much more seriously in many ways, especially with publications from what I read anyways. There was another quick story. I haven't done much research into it at first because I thought it was just US based. It has something to do about the universities and stuff in the US. They're being bribed by very wealthy people to enlist, I guess, their kids or something like that. In some cases, using very fake information, like trying to fabricate that they're an athlete and so forth when they really aren't. Because I'll just read stuff like this saying, elite Vancouver private school launches investigation over college test scam allegations. So apparently that even relates to places like here, like it's all connected, like here in Vancouver as well. So again, I'll read a little bit more about it later, but I just thought it's kind of interesting. Then again, you can't be surprised, I guess, right? Like when it comes to stuff like this, where there's a lot of wealth and money, I guess you're gonna expect there's gonna be corruption of sorts too, right? Because in the US, they had like this press session or something like that, where the guy that was in charge, I guess, of reporting it basically told people somewhere along the lines of, for every student or whatever that was fraudulently accepted into those universities, it basically took away an opportunity for people who legitimately had, like, say, the skill or the talent. So that's why for me it's kind of fascinating to see, because this happens probably all the time, but people are just oblivious to it, right? The people that work the hardest and all that, it's just sometimes it comes down to money and power, politics, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of fascinating to keep up anyways.
Whoa.
All right, see you guys later.